streaming today? Got
Hope
a
so.
got kinks worked out, you think?
We sort of streamed last week, or last month, we sort of streamed the month before.
But last month you had a little volume echo problem.
Yeah,
Huge volume echo problem.
we're trying again. You are now live, so.
Yeah. Well, let me know how it goes, because the school had a couple of instructors at the School of Pharmacy really liked the idea on that, and they want to use it as part of the curriculum on showing the students, have the students maybe take an hour
Yeah.
during their semester or a half a day and do that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I'm gonna actually go, tell my son to watch it from home. I'm sure the sound is
Okay.
good. You're kidding.
No. I have lined, literally physically lined 160 parking spots in my yard. I've got my neighbor's field next door on reserve, 3 golf carts, 8 person, 6 cars. People golf. It's
I bet it's gonna be absolutely beautiful though.
about 120, 10, air all around, dance floor, all. They had me, I've got wheat behind my house.
Uh-huh.
They had me cover little runways, they can walk down the wheat, and that's gonna be wrecking a lot with the huge church pews and stuff. Well, we don't like the way the entrance is too wide, so I had to cut another block behind that, double doors up, open doors.
Good morning, sir.
The whole field would kind of get the impression.
Yeah.
I got a
It's gonna be really pretty.
That is-
Board of Pharmacy meeting this morning. Well, probably.
You do, I mean,
Four
the
more
weather-
days.
The weather is gonna be perfect then.
We got rain maybe Wednesday, Thursday, well, would be good to kind of dampen everything down the rest.
Yeah.
As long as we don't get more than an inch, I can park.
Yeah. Oh, I bet that's gonna be gorgeous.
I worked from
Absolutely.
morning to dark the last 2 weeks. We ordered, we had, 70, over 70 shrubs had to be replaced in full, they weren't quite right. Yeah, this about to kill me. Hey, kidding is terrible.
It's gonna be so worth it in the end.
Oh, you
You're
keep
gonna
telling,
be-
you keep telling me that, you keep telling me that.
Well, congratulations.
Yep, last one,
Yeah.
goodness. Morning, Ms. Carol.
Good morning, Joey. How are you?
Good, how you today?
Excellent, thank you.
So, I got 3 students right here.
Okay.
I got, let me get some Mickey string real quick, be okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Hey, one of the pharmacists I interviewed to hire for our Littleton store,
Uh-huh.
and his fiance came down last week to interview. I knew they were getting married the same day as Cameron is.
Uh-huh.
getting married that same day, within half an hour of each other. They're not leaving, Cameron and Brooke are not leaving until Sunday afternoon. They're gonna fly to Miami and then get on a plane to go to Lucia, St. Lucia.
Wow.
The guy, the candidate, and his fiance, same flight, same honeymoon destination. And then we were sitting there talking about, and, Will's mother groom song is the same one Tammy and Cameron picked out. Is that not crazy? I said, it's fate, I'm telling you, you need to come work for us.
You need to just hire the guy, because your son's gonna know all about it.
Oh, that's what we said. Everybody started talking, they're gonna kind of meet up a little bit later down there, because they're down there for the same number of days. Isn't that crazy?
Good morning, Mr. Goffin.
President Minton?
You doing, son?
Doing good, sir.
Good morning, how are you?
Hey,
Good.
yes, ma'am.
Lizelle just called. He said he's running late
Okay.
between wrecks on the highway and detours. He said he's just crossing 64.
Okay, thank you for that information. We'll kind of hang on here a little bit. Thank you. You stayed up till last night, didn't you, Jordan?
Mm-hmm. I got here about 11. Mr. Chesson, how are you, sir?
Hey, Joey, good morning. Somebody's left me their wallet, I see.
That's your tip.
That's
for
the
today.
payoff.
That's the payoff.
How are you?
Elections are there, brother. That's why.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Good.
It's old school up here.
I'll have to see what's in that wallet.
Yeah.
So far, so pretty good. Not much.
Christmas at the town is pretty good so far.
Yeah, just, that's pretty touchy.
Yeah, I'm not touching anything.
You'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm getting Trey to watch it too, so I wasn't up.
Yes.
We had a deal on rental, the summer suspension year.
I think the third required publication is this week.
Is when?
This week,
This week?
yeah. It's gotta be 3 straight weeks. And the first one's like last week of April, so.
But I should have put the certificate of service on it.
We'll just do an affidavit. In fact, usually the newspapers themselves will do an affidavit that says we certify we served it X number of days.
All right.
How do you?
Bill said he wanted to do it next now.
Okay. We're testing the stream live in it today.
Be prepared.
Actually, we are right now.
Yeah, it's actually live now.
Volume working better?
So far, so
Good. Good. Oh.
Joey, I met with Bill White about the supplemental retirement thing. He wants to switch one of the funds I'm in to a
Okay.
different one, so I need,
Sign off.
you'll sign, print.
I think
file,
so. Neck of
I'm
the
saying-
woods. Let's see.
Morning. You guys get around, don't you? You following me?
Okay, let's see. Gene.
Yes, sir.
I got three students here today.
Okay.
Hold this one second. They're probably gonna eat with us, with me today.
That'd be wonderful. You gonna take them to Hardee's or what?
It depends what we have. Hope it's good, be cheaper.
That's cool. You want to recognize those when we called a meeting to order?
Yeah, don't mind.
Okay. Where are they?
Skylar is in the green, lime green. Tommy Cook is the young one in the back in the gray sweater. Adam, where's Adam? Oh, Adam Britt hadn't come in yet. He's here, but he hadn't come in yet.
That's cool. Zale's running a little late. What is your inclination in regard to that?
That's fine. Talk to Jay.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
When you say, do we have any conflicts of interest, I'm a,
He's got one that's Rick Hospital. He's got a conflict. He's gonna accuse himself. And Lozelle. No, okay, what's the okay. Yeah, as long as you got 4, right?
Simple majority is.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Carol.
Good morning, James. morning,
How
Mr.
you
Mixon.
doing?
Oh, just
You got a conflict with the reciprocity case? Okay. Good to see you.
Yes, sir, I am. Coming right along.
Good.
How about you?
I'm wonderful.
Good, let's see. You feel good. You did feel good. Yeah. So how's the election going, you think?
I don't have any idea.
You don't?
No. I don't have any idea.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be making some calls for Stan next there too, and include you if you want me to.
That's great. I don't know how many more people are gonna vote that hadn't already voted, but it's fine. You know.
Yeah, I think you can scrape some off the table that may, like I know some people that I've been told that maybe not have voted yet, have not actually sat down and done it, and I'm gonna be contacting those folks.
Yeah.
And it seems like there are some at the very end that maybe hadn't done it yet.
Yeah. Anybody you talk to, I appreciate the support.
Okay. Or I was emailed Stan this morning asking if he'd try. I don't know if you have either posting things on LinkedIn or Facebook.
Well,
You know, dear pharmacist friends, blah blah blah.
I have, I sent some emails out, sent some mailings out, that type of thing, and some things like that, and
Mhm.
the same thing I did last time, you know, and,
Mhm. Worked then, right?
well, I guess so, and that type of thing.
Mhm.
I felt that last time, the first time I read, I had actually more credible opposition, but I might be wrong. There's so many people, you know, getting a simple majority in the first vote is
Yeah.
probably would be out of the question, I think. I don't know.
You know what? I've been talking to people. I didn't really get going. I didn't start spreading the word till you could actually vote. But almost everybody, actually, I can't think of anybody that I talked to and told them I support you and Stan. They have, in total, told me that y'all were the obvious best candidates.
Well, let's see.
So,
I've certainly done my best when I've been here in for pharmacy and pharmacist, and I feel like sometimes I get a sense from the board of pharmacy and pharmacist, as far as the staff around here, that at least they're concerned. I like that a bit. I've really been disgusted lately.
you believe that?
I've been disgusted lately.
In what respect?
Just the way pharmacists in general view and the way the staff are so irreverent about what they're doing and things like that. Sir?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Big time. I've been out of the house in 2 years, so I'm excited.
Y'all gonna rent
Yeah, we are. Well, there's all sorts of stuff. Actually, Vance and he and Tanner have sleep. He's already planning.
What's longer than
Yeah.
Scottsdale? I mean,
I've never been there.
Have you ever been to
No,
Sedona?
but Vance got all these plans. Go to Sedona and all this other stuff. And they have to do the Sedona method.
3 hours.
That's what we're talking about too. Riding up there and seeing the canyons.
Friday.
You know, you better riders. You
It's
know.
about like it was, I think, Jay. Really, when everybody's happy and everything's doing good, people don't worry about it too much.
Oh, very good then. That's a good thought, not a good idea.
Really, that's always been my perspective anyway. The people that come will be the ones who want to be there and probably play golf,
Yeah.
that type thing. But I don't know how many. We always get somebody in that type thing. But the company we had such a great year, and everybody's pretty upbeat about that. So it really,
There's a
Good.
how can you complain about that?
No, can't.
Of course, we have got some really good board members on the board, and we got to deal with.
Well, I'm sure there's a president on the board that will probably keep that one misfit up there in line, I'm sure.
You never know.
You guys talking about each other?
Who I wouldn't talk about Joey. He's one of my favorite
Oh
things to
my
pick on. You know
God.
what I mean?
Not to my knowledge.
His little lady said he's a traffic problem. He's gonna be here.
States do wanna do it like Alabama or not.
I hate to start a whole lot of mess.
Oh, was it for real? Was that for real?
Way down here. I didn't know how they were gonna work that. So he probably will be. If not, we just take a recess and be done with it. Jay,
Yes, sir.
could you come over here just a minute, please? Thank you. Bill's gonna recuse
Yeah,
himself for his
for that.
reciprocity.
I don't have to vote.
If Lozelle's not here, that's gonna be me and Joey and Carol and,
That's
which
still
is enough
quorum.
people.
Yeah, as long as you
okay.
have four, you got a
Just-
quorum. And if you didn't have if, let's say we had four people here, but somebody had to recuse because of a conflict,
Yeah.
that doesn't take away your quorum. You can
Oh,
still
okay,
conduct
okay,
business
that's
with
cool.
less than.
Just wanna make sure.
On that, is there gonna be a conference call to certify the election?
Come and do it.
Yeah,
Coming to
yeah,
Phoenix.
we're gonna do that. I think Kristen's handling all that. We're gonna do that on Friday.
Yeah, I'll be
Because
in Florida.
I know, but I think we've got a forum to
Good.
do that. Well, I wanted to go ahead and try to certify them this week, because
Right.
and I don't know whether we'll have to have
Sure.
a house, but if we
Sure.
do,
Right.
I didn't wanna wait till June,
Sure.
then certify,
Sure.
then run the election, so.
Well, I was thinking we probably have a quorum out there when everybody gets there, right?
Well, but, oh, you mean out at,
In Phoenix.
But it is one of the ifs.
See?
are you coming to Phoenix?
Parks, you're coming to Phoenix? Yeah.
I haven't signed up on the project, and I
We'd have 4.
yeah, you going, Carol?
Yes, I am. You looking forward to it? When are you coming? Thursday? I mean, Saturday?
Saturday morning, so come back Tuesday.
Is Wendy coming? She doesn't like the trip.
Well, too many other
Responsibility.
responsibilities.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. It's gonna be fun. I haven't been out there in years. In that part of
I've
the
never
world.
stayed in Phoenix, I've flown through Phoenix, but I've never stayed.
I was 17 the last time I was there, so I bet it's changed a little bit.
Oh, you were 17?
Yes. And actually, I came home and got an application to the University of Arizona at Tucson. That's exactly what, I was 17. That's the first thing I did, was get an application to go to college.
Did you do it?
No, my dad was like, hey, there are way too many good schools in North Carolina. And then I also applied to the University of Hawaii, Honolulu, and Pepperdine. My dad's like,
Quiet on that too.
Why you got too confused for? You're just high tech. Oh, okay.
He called, he said, running late, traffic problem. Probably before
Yes.
you do?
Please.
This way I will be able to.
No, I understand. Okay.
I have no idea. I haven't been in his book field room.
This is right, this is,
All right. Yep.
I guess I would do it all here.
We made it. We made it.
I'm a-
Yeah, 2 months ago, and he just said this will happen in May.
Okay, very good.
I'll have to cost for
Okay, all right.
He's a good guy. Yeah, he sent me an email.
You're fine, you're fine.
That's a good guy. He's
Yes.
a great guy. I think he's been at Frost Brown, I think, and has been, I think, for a long time. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to officially welcome you to the 887th meeting of the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy. Glad you're all here today. We will circulate a sign-up sheet where we have a record of your visit for the minutes and also so we know who you are. We have possibly some introductions we're going to make this morning. Joey, you have some students here this morning. If you- Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
McLaughlin.
President. I'd like to acknowledge, have Skylar Simmons, who is on rotation in our store, along with Adam Britt, they're both at Campbell, and I have Tommy Cook from UNC. I want to welcome them here this morning.
And would you guys introduce yourself, please? These two have been shadowing me everywhere I go lately, so I feel like I need to.
My name is Lauren Gray, and I'm from UNC Pharmacy School. I'm with Mutual Drug.
My name's Nick Envy, and I'm also Mutual Drug UNC.
Welcome, Lauren and Nick. Glad to see y'all again this morning. Having said that, we'll call the meeting to order, and we will make sure in this meeting, we abide by the ethics statements, and I'll try to read that and paraphrase it as best I can. In accordance with the state government's Ethics Act, it's the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, we'll identify that conflict and take action based on that. And as the
Mr. President,
agenda develops, if one comes up,
Here, Mr. President, we do have one.
Mr. President, I will recuse myself from any discussion on reciprocity candidate Michael Blair.
okay, and what we'll ask you to do during that time is just step into the audience or find somewhere else and just step down from the seat if you would, okay? Are there any others? Having none, do we need a motion to officially accept this recusal, Greg? Just
No.
take it like that? Okay, all right. Mr. Campbell, we'll start on them. Well, have consideration of the minutes of April 2014 meeting, copies of which you have had a chance to review those. What's the will of the board in regards to those minutes?
Make the motion to be accepted as written, please.
Second.
Have a motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, that's passes. Thank you very much. We'll begin then, Mr. Campbell, with the agenda.
Thank you, Mr.
And
President.
let me just say that Board Member Marks is en route. He had some traffic problems out there this morning and will be here, so we'll welcome him when he shows up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize, I was conferencing and I'm still pulling up my materials for. There, I got it. Thank you. The first item on the agenda, substantive agenda, Mr. President, is consideration of a reciprocity application from Amir Beckett. Did I pronounce that right, Mr. Beckett? Yeah, come on up, and you can have a seat over there. You can sit in the middle if you want. People generally prefer to avoid sitting in the middle, and you're under no obligation to do so. But you can sit, if you want to have a seat right over there on the other side. And did I pronounce your name correctly? Mr. Beckett, thank you. And it may be Dr. Beckett, I'm sorry. Are you a BS graduate, Mr. Beckett, or a Form D graduate?
A BS.
Okay. Some people get real touchy about that when you don't call them that by the appropriate title, and I do appreciate that. Mr. Beckett, thank you for being here this morning. Mr. President, let me give an introduction to this matter. Mr. Beckett has filed an application to reciprocate his West Virginia license to practice pharmacy to North Carolina. Let the record reflect, Mr. Marks is here. Mr. Beckett has filed an application to reciprocate his West Virginia license to practice pharmacy to North Carolina. And board members, you will find behind your tab the few documents that I am going to refer to here. They are bookmarked behind the tab. Question number 2 of the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy reciprocity exam asks, have you ever failed a state board examination? And Mr. Beckett answered no to that question. When we received Mr. Beckett's NABP reciprocity application, page 1 appeared to show that Mr. Beckett had failed the West Virginia Multi-State Pharmacy Jurisprudence exam. Missy Betts, on behalf of board staff, made contact with Mr. Beckett to ask about the apparent discrepancy. Mr. Beckett did respond by email, and you have a copy of that email. We'll go forward. We'll talk about that a little bit. By email said that he did fail West Virginia and Virginia the first time and had to reschedule both tests. He explained, however, that didn't require him to file a new application with either state board. That's why I marked that question as no, since I ended up passing both tests. So Mr. Beckett is here seeking a ruling on his reciprocity application. Mr. Beckett, what I'll do is we'll get you to swear or affirm, an oath. I'll ask you a couple questions. Board members may have a couple questions, and then if there's anything that I didn't ask that you want to say, or anything you want to say for whatever reason, you feel free to do that. The board members may have a few more questions or not, and then we'll ask them to deliberate on your application. All right, with that, Cindy, if you would ask Mr. Beckett to swear or affirm. Mr. Beckett, it's going to sound like I'm repeating myself here, and I am to some degree, and I apologize for that. But it's the way you have to create the record on these things. So, as I stated, this is an application that you filed with the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy. Is that correct? And you can take a look at that and make sure that's the application you filed. So that is correct. That's the application you filed. And then question number 2 on that application, is it correct? Says, have you ever failed state board examination? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you answered no to that question. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then board members, I'll remind you, you do have this behind your tab. I'm just establishing these. for the record. And then, Mr. Beckett, we have an NABP exam, and take a look at that, and if you would, confirm, is that a National Association of Boards of Pharmacy application to transfer a license that you filed? Is that correct? And on that, if you look down toward the bottom of page 1, there's an indication that says NPJE, WV84, and WV72. Do you see those notations? Might help you look over here. Yes. And is that an indication from of West Virginia that you had an initial NPJE score in West Virginia of 72? Is that correct? And is it correct that a passing score on the NPJE for West Virginia would have been a 75, I believe? Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So the first time you took the NPJE in West Virginia, you did not pass the NPJE. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned, and I'm certainly going to give you every opportunity here to talk about, to explain the apparent discrepancy in that. You mentioned, and I'm not trying to trap you with anything here, you mentioned in your email that you had failed Virginia the first time. Is that correct? Did you take a Virginia MPJE as well? Yeah. And this is not your fault, but just point out, is there anything on this application that would indicate the Virginia score on that? I see a West Virginia, I see 2 West Virginia scores. I know it says you got a license.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
But it doesn't reflect the score.
Yeah, because Virginia test is different. I think it's federal, state,
and I can't remember, and I'm only pointing this out, but not to get you in trouble, but I want to point out to the board in an email I'm about to discuss, you did mention that you did not pass the Virginia MPJE the first time. You didn't indicate that, but that score is not indicated on the NABP, but that is not because you withheld a score from the NABP. For whatever reason, it appears that the NABP did not include that in their file. So as we talk about this, I did not want to give the board the impression that you had not reported a score to NABP. So with that then, though, you did send an email, and I think is that a copy of the email you sent to Missy Betts on March 27th concerning the apparent discrepancy?
Yes.
And so you explained, it is a fact, is it not, Mr. Beckett, that you did in fact fail a State Board of Pharmacy examination. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in fact, you failed 2. Is that correct? And yet you answered no on the application. So I just want to give you an opportunity to explain to the board, and you've done it in the email there, explain in your words to the board members why you said no on the State Board application when in fact you had failed a State Board of Pharmacy examination.
Well, when I filed that application, to take like the West Virginia test and the Virginia test, is that it's like only it's good for a year from the date of issuance of the letter, like that has been my application has been accepted to sit for the test, and I did not pass it the first time, but I still passed it like in a month later, because I can only reschedule test like within 30 days from my last examination day. So I didn't have to file a new application with with West Virginia or Virginia Board of Pharmacy, and I did pass the test the second time. So it was still within like a time frame designated in the application.
And so it's your testimony, and I don't dispute the factual nature of this, it's your testimony that you never had to file a second application for licensure in West Virginia or Virginia. Is that correct?
Yeah, just one application.
But in fact, question number 2, though, if you look at question number 2 on the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy reciprocity application, it asks, have you ever failed a State Board application? Mm-hmm. Right? Is that what that reads?
Yeah, it's just like a misinterpretation of the question. But I had no bad intention.
Would you agree that it is important to answer applications for licensure completely and correctly?
Of course.
And if you look on page 2 of that North Carolina application, it does indicate you had sworn that the answers you had given were true and correct. Is that what it says?
Yes.
And it does say that you understand any false information could subject your subject you to refusal for licensure.
Yes.
Is that correct? Mr. Beckett, at any point did you call the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy staff and ask about whether your interpretation of that question was correct?
No, I didn't.
At any point, did you call and ask the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy whether or not your interpretation of that question was correct?
No.
Looking back on it, would you think that might have, if you were in fact confused, do you think that might have been an appropriate path to follow?
Now I think it's
I do not have any more questions for Mr. Beckett at this point. Board members, you may or may not have questions, so I'll give you guys an opportunity to ask them.
Any questions, Mr. Beckett? Mr. Campbell from the board? We'll have a motion for closed session.
Well, let me ask, I want to make
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
Mr. Beckett, if there's anything I didn't ask or, or anything you want to say that you don't feel like you had a chance to say, absolutely, this is your opportunity.
no. It's just that, again, I had no poor intention at all. Didn't mean to hide anything from the Board of Pharmacy, because I just filed like my Virginia license last year, and I knew that North Carolina Board of Pharmacy will be receiving a form from the national board. So I knew I cannot hide anything. But again, it's just like a misinterpretation of like a wrong decoding of the question.
My only comment, Mr. President, is I do think the question is clear. The question asks, have you ever failed an examination? It doesn't say, did you have to file multiple applications or the like. So I do think it's clear. Do I think this is the most flagrant thing we've ever seen in terms of dishonesty on an application? No, I would certainly concede that it's not. But I do think this was a material omission, and but for the fact that Missy was scrutinizing the NABP report in a very close way, this would not have been caught. I think Mr. Beckett, to the extent he found that question unclear, although I confess I'm not capable of understanding how it could be made more clear, but at any rate, if someone found it unclear, the appropriate thing is to call and ask, not to answer and hope. So with that, I certainly would commit a decision on Mr. Beckett's application to reciprocate to your good judgment as to whether it should proceed, and if so, whether or not there should be any conditions attached to any license that he
I have a couple of comments. Of course, you know that based on this misrepresentation on the application, we could fully be expected to deny your application. You understand that, right?
Of course not.
Do you have any words in regards to that, or what you said pretty much stands? Is that correct? Mr. Campbell, do you have any staff recommendations? Do you recommend that we deny this application? Do you have any, has the staff taken a position on this?
Well, it's a hard case. I mean, I should back up. It's not a hard case in the sense that I think it's clear that Mr. Beckett did not complete the application correctly and was negligent in not doing that and not attempting to follow up.
Agreed.
I think it would be appropriate under these circumstances and consistent with similar cases in the past to impose some period of time before he can proceed further with the reciprocity application. In some cases, this board has made that a 30-day time, a 90-day time. I don't think that consistent with our handling of similar cases in the past that an outright denial would be a necessary penalty. I think some sort of active delay before you could proceed further would be inappropriate.
I thank you for that elaboration.
Certainly.
Motion for closed session.
Thank you.
Second.
Have a motion, second, third. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. We're going to do a closed session to discuss this. We'll be back shortly. Thank you. I'm doing it, I'm gonna should or not. Could I ask the board for a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
And second.
Mr.
All
Beckett,
those-
you can come on back up.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Foley, we're back in open session. Mr. Beckett, we appreciate you coming before us today. There's an obvious error in your application, so certainly the first decision we had to make was you'll need to reapply. Typically, in that situation like that, the board policies is you reapply in 12 months. We believe that there's some credibility to what there's credibility to what you said about how your interpretation might have been wrong. So the board decided to have you submit a new application and let you reapply in 6 months. And we hope it'll be a correct one next time.
I hope so too.
Mr. Beckett, I'll follow up with you with an appropriate memorialization on this, and we can be in touch, and you can be in touch with Ms. Stump about that. All right.
Like
I'll come and
whole-
I'll come and collect that stuff.
okay.
We'll
Thank
be in
you.
touch.
And very best wishes. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, just give me a moment.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is a request for consideration of a reciprocity application from candidate Michael Blair. Mr. Blair, are you here? Yeah, come on up, Mr. Blair, and you have a sense. Have a seat over there. And Mr. Blair, you saw the prior proceeding. I'm going to follow substantially the same format here. I'll explain to the board why you're here. Give a précis of that, then I will have questions for you. The board members may have questions for you as well, and then we'll go from there. All right. So Mr. Blair has filed an application to reciprocate his New York license to practice pharmacy in North Carolina. Mr. Blair is, I believe, practicing pharmacy at Diamondback Drugs in Arizona. And I'll go ahead, well, I want to ask, my understanding is that his New York license to practice pharmacy is the license that he acquired by examination, and therefore is the one he is using to reciprocate. Question 7 of our reciprocity application asks, and I'm going to summarize here, we'll go through this in detail, ask all candidates, have you ever been charged by a board of pharmacy or regulatory body on matters which could have produced an action on your license? Mr. Blair answered yes to that question and further explained that his license was cited in California for wholesaling medications without a wholesale license, but said that no disciplinary action was taken. Question 2 of the NABP application to transfer a license asked, has your license ever been revoked, suspended, restricted, terminated, or otherwise been subject to disciplinary action, public or private, by any board of pharmacy or other state authority? Mr. Blair responded no to that question. In fact, in April of 2013, Mr. Blair was fined $5,000 by the California Board of Pharmacy for not being in compliance with California law that requires a person located outside the state who delivers drugs into the state to be registered to do so. We will talk about that in more detail. In 2006, the California Board issued a fine of $2,500 to Mr. Blaine stemming from, Mr. Blair, I apologize if I've said Blaine before, Mr. Blair stemming from a finding that he had falsified an email sent to him by a member of the California Board and reproduced that falsified email in written response. The Board of Pharmacy did ultimately dismiss that citation, but he was charged with that at that time. We have contacted the board staff, contacted Mr. Blair about the obvious, apparent inconsistency between his application statements and the documents available to us. Mr. Blair has some explanations for that, and we will talk about those in the course of my asking some questions. At the conclusion, Mr. Blair, of course, is seeking a ruling that he may continue with the reciprocity licensure application process. So with that then, I would like to get Cindy to ask Mr. Blair to swear or affirm, and we will proceed. Mr. Blair, if you would state your name for the record.
Michael Blair.
And Mr. Blair, you are, and am I correct to say Mr. Blair? I want to make sure.
Yes.
Mr. Blair, it is correct. You are seeking to reciprocate a New York license to practice pharmacy. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you obtained that New York licensure by examination, is that correct?
Correct.
You also obtained a California pharmacy licensure by examination, is that correct?
Correct.
But I'm assuming you're not reciprocating that because we don't reciprocate from California, is that correct?
Exactly.
You currently practice in Arizona, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you practice at a pharmacy called Diamondback Drugs, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you would explain to the board members what the practice model for Diamondback Drugs is.
Diamondback Drugs is it's an independent retail pharmacy. We specialize in veterinary compounding, and we ship all over the country.
Mr. Blair, why are you seeking a personal license to practice pharmacy in North Carolina?
Honestly, it was $50 extra when I applied for my Maryland licensure or New Mexico licensure. So I've always liked North Carolina. I've had a lot of friends from pharmacy school that located out here, and my children seem to be gravitating back east, and I thought perhaps someday I might look to retire here.
So you don't have any immediate plans to practice pharmacy in North Carolina, is that correct?
No, sir.
Mr. Blair, turning to the documents, and I'm gonna show you the documents just like I did with Mr. Beckett. It might be easier to start with the NABP, or reciprocity, or licensure transfer application. Give you a moment to take a look at that, and if you would confirm, I expect that this is in fact an NABP application transfer license that you filed with the North Carolina Board. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Correct.
And is it correct, if I could direct your attention to page 3, I believe, of that application. Question number 2 asks, has your license in any jurisdiction ever been revoked, suspended, restricted, terminated, or otherwise been subject to disciplinary action, public or private, by any board of pharmacy or other state authority? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you answered no to that question, is that correct?
Correct.
And I understand you have an explanation for why you did that. I'm just laying the foundation for the documents here.
Yes, sir.
Looking at the bottom of page 3 of that document, it indicates there that you, under oath, were swearing or affirming that you had read the foregoing paragraphs and all information was complete, true, and correct, that you understood that any statements made by false statements could be punishable by law. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that in fact your signature below that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that is a notary signature confirming that that is your signature. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if I could then, let me also show you, this document. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, sir.
And is it correct that that's a North Carolina Board of Pharmacy reciprocity application that you filed with North Carolina? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? If I could direct your attention to page 2 of that application. Is it correct that question 7 asks, have you at any point in your licensure as a pharmacist been charged by any board of pharmacy or regulatory body on matters which could have produced an action on your license? Is that what that question said?
Correct.
And you answered yes to that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And if you would, please read your further explanation on page 7.
License cited by the state of California for wholesaling medications without a wholesale license. No disciplinary action taken.
Okay, and in your answer, am I correct that that's a referral to an April 2013 ruling by the California Board? Is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure of the date. But
Okay,
yes.
well, then let me ask the question this way. Is it correct you're referring to an action by the California Board of Pharmacy concerning your shipment of compounded products into California without an appropriate license to do that?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? Is there any, does that answer in any way mention a charge that was filed against your license in approximately 2006 in California?
No.
Backing up then, let me take it, let me go in reverse chronological order here. And board members, all of these documents that I'm referring are behind your tab and they are bookmarked. I'm going to show you a letter here. Is it correct this is an August 29, 2007 letter from Jenny Harold on behalf of the California Board of Pharmacy to you?
Yes.
And does it indicate that a fine that had been assessed against you had been dismissed? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if I could ask you to look at the second page of that. The second page is it correct that it's a document from the Board of Pharmacy in California stated as a citation and fine. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And it recites an accusation that on or about in November 29, 2006, you falsified an email sent to you by a member of the board. On or about 2006, the falsified email was received by the board, reproduced into a written response to the board's cease and desist order dated November 23, 2006. And they allege that this was a violation of the Business and Professional Code, Section 4-301. Is that correct, that that's what that says?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, there was a fine issued, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And ultimately, you protested the fine, is that correct?
I protested the whole accusation.
Okay, I understand. And ultimately, the board dismissed the fine that had been assessed, is that correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, not only did they dismiss it, they said they didn't understand why it was even issued in the first place.
Okay. Do you have any documentation that would indicate that?
My attorney might.
Okay, well,
I don't have it. I do not have it with me, no, sir.
But is it correct, Mr. Blair, looking at the citation and fine, and again, I certainly stipulate for the record it was dismissed, so I'm not making any accusation or suggestion that the conduct that was alleged, and that's all an allegation is an accusation. It doesn't mean it happened, it just means it's an allegation. However, this was a citation and a fine, correct?
Yes, sir.
If the board had not accepted your explanation or version of the events in that case, what would have been the result of your receiving that citation and fine?
There would have been a mark on my license.
Right, you would have been charged $2,500 fine, is that correct? Okay. And you did not disclose this charge in the answer to the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy and its reciprocity application, is that correct?
It is correct. It was my understanding that this didn't even exist anymore.
Okay. You did receive that document?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you do understand that it refers to a charge, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so is it your testimony that somehow the board's dismissal of that charge made it vanish from existence?
Yes, sir. That was my understanding.
And from where did you draw that understanding?
From the fact that everything from the California Board of Pharmacy, they said that they made a mistake.
But you were charged?
Apparently, yes, sir.
Well, I'm asking you, whether it's apparent or it's not apparent, were you charged by the California Board of Pharmacy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the question on the application asks, have you ever been charged? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you answered no to that question. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go to a second set of documents. In 2013, let me show you a couple of documents here. You received a citation and a fine from the California Board of Pharmacy. I'll give you a chance to look at that. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, sir.
And in substance, the California Board charged you with shipping compounded products into the state of California without a wholesaler license. Is that correct?
No, sir. This was actual wholesale sales, not compounded products.
Okay. I thank you for the correction. So you were selling products that were not compounded. They were commercially available products, and you were selling those into California with that. That was their charge,
yes,
without a wholesale license.
Correct.
At the bottom of this page and going on for several pages, there is a spreadsheet. Could you describe for the board what that spreadsheet is?
Well, basically, I had to submit all of my invoices to California for sales into that state for a time period, and they itemized all of the wholesale sales.
And this was over, is it correct, this was over a time period of about 3 years, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And in that time period, the California Board of Pharmacy determined there were approximately 375 invoice transactions indicating you had wholesale prescription drugs into California without a permit to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
As a result of, and the California Board made a finding here that violated their Business and Professional Code governing conduct. Is it correct you were fined $5,000?
Yes, sir.
That is correct?
Yes.
And is it correct that you paid that fine?
I did.
Okay. Got to make sure I've got another letter. I beg your indulgence for a moment, Mr. President. while I am shuffling through here, looking there, I found the letter I need. While I'm doing that, the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy application, your explanation, you disclosed that there had been an action. You paid the fine, correct?
Yes, sir.
But your statement was that no disciplinary action was taken.
Correct.
What's your basis for making a statement that no disciplinary action was taken?
The word disciplinary doesn't appear anywhere on the citation. The original letter stated that this would be an administrative action only, not a disciplinary action. And this was actually the same interpretation that my attorney had.
Okay. Mr. Blair, if the state of, you have a license to practice in California, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If the Board of Pharmacy in California sought to revoke your license to practice pharmacy, would they do that as a criminal matter?
Depends on what the provocation was.
Okay. This is the game we want to play.
Well,
We'll play that game. If the Board of Pharmacy in California did not come and place cuffs on you and take you into custody, is it your understanding the California Board of Pharmacy has the authority to place you in cuffs and charge you with a criminal violation? The California Board of Pharmacy?
I guess not, no.
Okay, so if the California Board of Pharmacy were to take action and revoke your license, would they do that in a criminal proceeding then?
No.
It would be what kind of proceeding?
An administrative
An
proceeding.
administrative proceeding. So if the California Board of Pharmacy revoked your license in an administrative proceeding, would your answer to this question be there was no disciplinary action imposed because it was an administrative proceeding?
If my license was revoked, I would take that as disciplinary.
Okay, even though it was an administrative proceeding?
Yes, sir.
So you would concede then that the word administrative doesn't have any magical power as to whether or not there was discipline. You paid a $5,000 fine, did you not?
Yes, sir.
And wasn't it your understanding that that question in the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy reciprocity application was to determine what actions had ever been taken against you as a practitioner in your professional capacity? Didn't you understand that to be the point of the question?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever call the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy to ask, I paid a $5,000 fine, do you consider this disciplinary action?
No, sir.
Did you ever call the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy and ask?
No.
I paid a $5,000 fine for wholesaling violations. Is this the kind of thing that would be a disciplinary action? Did you do that?
No, sir.
Why didn't you do that?
Based on my understanding that there was administrative and not disciplinary.
Okay, so we've dealt with that piece of it. Mr. Blair, why were you reluctant to disclose the fact that you had been charged in 2006, which the Board of Pharmacy application asked about, and had in fact paid a fine to the California Board of Pharmacy?
I was not reluctant to disclose that. It didn't even occur to me. It has not been an issue. I have applied for reciprocal licenses since that date. It has never been an issue. As far as I was concerned, the matter disappeared. The fine was refunded. The charges were revoked. The incident.
Okay, that's with respect to the 2006.
Yes, sir.
Okay, with respect to 2013, has that fine been revoked?
No, sir.
Okay, so you paid the fine.
I paid the fine.
I'm going to show, because you have provided some communication with the Board of Pharmacy. I'm going to show you an email. Board members, you have this behind your tab. Is it correct, Mr. Blair, that this is an electronic mail message that you sent to Missy Betts, at the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy in January of this year?
Yes, sir.
And in that email, you were further explaining your views on the filling out the application. And you said, your answer was, I would have fought this, but I was in the process of selling my business, and the California Board was holding my non-resident pharmacy license hostage. Payment of the fine was the quickest resolution. I did so because I was assured that this would not go on my record as a disciplinary action. Is that correct, that that's what you've written in the email?
Yes, sir.
I want to back up and say, what is the basis for your statement that the California Board was holding your non-resident pharmacy license hostage? What does that mean?
That means that we were in the process of selling out our business. We had an application into the state of California for a new non-resident pharmacy license because of the change of ownership. My attorney had been in discussions with the California board, and they said that they would not issue the license while this matter was open.
Okay, and why in your, explain for me the choice of the word hostage in that.
Because I had already filed an appeal with Jennifer Sevilla at the California Board of Pharmacy, who also was the one that told me that this would not appear on my license.
Is she here today?
She is not.
Do you have any affidavit from her to that effect?
No, sir.
Do you have any documentation from her to that effect?
No, sir.
Would it be fair to characterize, when you use a term like hostage, that you were upset with the California Board of Pharmacy?
Yes, sir.
Did your, in fact, was it your feeling that you were being unfairly cited by the California Board of Pharmacy?
I did not have an opportunity to contest the charge.
Okay, well, let me back up. Do you contest that you shipped the medications described in that spreadsheet into California?
No, sir.
Do you contest that you did not have a wholesale license in California to do that?
No, sir.
Okay, so what is it that you thought you did, well, I mean, why did you, what's the basis for your statement you didn't have an opportunity to contest?
Under Arizona state law, we're allowed to wholesale up to 5% of purchases without a license.
I'm not asking you what Arizona law says. You said you did not have an opportunity to contest with the California Board of Pharmacy their citation. What is the basis for your statement that you didn't have an opportunity to contest your fine?
Because I needed to have approval of my non-resident pharmacy license, and they would not approve it while this matter was open, so I paid the fine so that I could get my non-resident license issued.
Okay, so the correct answer is you did have an opportunity to contest, you chose not to contest. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In March of 2014, you sent an email, further email. Let me show you that. Secretary, is that an email that you sent to Missy Betts again on March 12th, 2014?
Yes, sir.
And in that email, you state that you are currently challenging the California Board of Pharmacy, and there's a strong possibility that the citation in question will be reversed. Are you, in fact, in the middle of challenging the California Board of Pharmacy?
Yes, sir.
And what is the mechanism by which you're challenging the California Board of Pharmacy?
I have an attorney that is in discussions with Ms. Sevilla and the new executive director of the California Board.
The new executive director? Who's
Yes,
the
it is
new
my
executive?
understanding that Ms. Cartwright is no longer there and that there is a new
I don't know who Ms. Cartwright is.
Brenda Cartwright.
Jenny Harold has been the executive director of the California Board of
I
Pharmacy for
apologize.
years
I
and
don't,
years and
I
years.
don't know what Ms. Cartwright's actual title was then, but
Did you file an appeal in court?
no, sir.
Okay. Mr. Blair, looking back in the process in which you filled out this application and answered these questions, are there things that you feel you could have done differently or said differently?
Yes.
And what are those?
Well, based on our discussion this morning, I could have said that I paid a fine to the California Board in 2013, and I could have disclosed this charge against me in 2006.
And what is your understanding, Mr. Blair, of why boards of pharmacy, or why this, if you have one, why this board of pharmacy asks questions about prior charges or disciplinary actions?
To determine the character of the pharmacists or applicants for licensure in the state.
And would you agree that a past disciplinary history or past charges are matters that are important for a board of pharmacy to know in making that determination?
Yes, sir.
I do not have any further questions for Mr. Blair. Board members may.
Questions from the board?
I have none.
currently you work at Diamondback Pharmacy in Arizona, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you the pharmacist?
Diamondback Drugs.
Are you the pharmacist manager?
Yes, sir.
Do you ship drugs into North Carolina?
Yes, we do, sir.
Are you licensed in North Carolina?
Yes,
Do you have
we
a
are.
pharmacist licensed in North Carolina there already?
Well,
I will stipulate for the board that Diamondback Drugs does hold a
Okay,
pharmacy
thank you.
permit in North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
Anything else that you want to tell the board before we address this issue?
Only that I've been a practicing pharmacist for over 30 years. These are the only two issues that have ever come up with my licensure. That's it.
Mr. President, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Diamondback Drug does have a permit.
They do. They are permitted. in
Who's
North Carolina.
PIC listed for that? Okay.
Mr. Blair is.
Okay.
He is not, now, look, I will make clear, he is not required under North Carolina law to have a personal license
Right.
to practice pharmacy in North Carolina to be a PM.
Any final statements from the board staff?
I apologize to the board members if my presentation seemed a little bit more antagonistic than perhaps it normally is or needs to be. But this is a big deal. This is a big deal. This was not a minor violation. This was a serious violation of California law. Mr. Blair may or may not feel that that was an appropriate charge, although he does not contest the facts that led to that charge. He may have felt, for whatever reason, he expressed that he was being held hostage. You heard his explanations for that. But this was a serious charge. And if folks can't or won't disclose a serious charge like this, and this is not a case where Mr. Blair didn't have resources available to him to resolve whatever doubts. He's testified he has a lawyer. He's testified he's familiar with disciplinary processes and the legal actions. He didn't call us. He didn't call NABP. He didn't have his lawyer call us. He didn't have his lawyer call NABP. For all appearances, this is an extremely serious disciplinary matter that he did not disclose that I think bears directly on Mr. Blair's fitness or ability to comply with the law governing the practice of pharmacy. And you, not only is this a material omission, in my opinion, on an application, it raises a question, a very serious one in my view, about his ability to comply with the law. I think this is a a license application that should be denied for those reasons.
Are you aware that all this stuff that came out today, if just taking your application at face value, we would never have known about that? Any of it?
I'm aware of that now, yes.
Okay, and that weighs heavily on me, as it does, I'm sure, the rest of the board. Any further comments, questions from the board? Have a motion?
Motion to go to closed session.
Thank you.
Second that motion.
Have a motion, second for closed session. All those in favor? That's unanimous. We'll sit back and review this, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. We're now back in open session. Michael, the board has considered this request to reciprocate in North Carolina, and we have determined that we're going to deny that request to reciprocate. You need to contact the executive director of the board about any further actions that you might need to do to handle this situation for yourself, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you,
Campbell?
Mr. President. Next item on the agenda, if we can, we do have, we have a document behind your tab, and I want to say what the document is, and
Mr.
Bill.
If you would, can we take like a 15-minute recess right here?
Absolutely, take
Is that
whatever
okay?
recess.
We'll be recessed till 10:15. Okay. Sorry to start you and stop you like that.
That's fine, it's a good time. Board, as you know, we had a large pharmacy compounding working group that made a set of recommendations to you about a year ago, mostly centered around additional training, additional inspectors, and the like. All of those recommendations have been implemented. We've had a smaller working group comprised of Bill Mixon, Gigi Davidson, and Ken Latta, taking a more focused look at our particular compounding regulations. And what you have behind your tab, and you will see there is a watermark on this document that says discussion draft only. As I want to emphasize that that's what this is. But Gigi, Bill, and Ken have spent quite a number of hours and quite a lot of used quite a lot of their expertise to produce for you today a discussion draft of amendments to our compounding regulations. And I want to state, and I'm certainly going to be happy to yield the floor to Bill, who's far more expert on these matters than am I. But there are basically three things that I think this draft that's before you was intended to accomplish. Number one, our current state of compounding regulations is we have what is described as a compounding rule, which is 1810. And then we have a separate set of rules in Section 2800 that are sterile product preparation. There have over my years here, a lot of folks will call and they get confused. Why are those in a separate section? Or they don't realize they have a hard time marrying them up. So one of the things that this compounding discussion draft does is to combine into one rule all the standards for the preparation of compounded products, whether they be sterile or non-sterile. So that's the first sort of thematic aspect of this. The second piece of this was to produce a discussion draft that is consistent with the requirements and harmonizes our rules with the Federal Drug Quality and Security Act, which was passed and signed into law in November of last year. I think you guys will recall I gave a presentation on that, and I will note there's going to be a panel on the Drug Quality and Security Act at the NABP meeting later this week, and I'm one of the participants in that panel. So some of the substantive changes that are included in here to bring our rule as best as we can into harmony with federal law is paragraph C, which discusses office use compounding, which does state that, as has been the case in North Carolina law, compounding for office use is allowed under state law, but makes clear that any such compounding for office use has to comply with applicable federal law. And as we have discussed, there are a number of federal requirements that apply to office use compounding as a result of the new federal statute. In terms of further conformance, you will see in paragraphs D and E a specific statement of incorporation of United States Pharmacopoeia chapters 795 and 797, as well as all chapters and standards that are incorporated into those chapters by reference, will govern the preparation of compound, or would if it govern the preparation of non-sterile and sterile products. Just a slight bit, or maybe not a slight bit of elaboration on that. As the board knows, we have been inspecting to and enforcing USP chapter compliance and have been for some time, and because we have a general obligation to ensure that practitioners are not negligent in the practice of pharmacy, and that means complying with the appropriate standard of care. It is the unanimous, as far as I can tell, view of every expert in the field that these do represent the standard of care. So this specific reference has the, I think, important benefit of making clear in the text of the rule that USP chapters are enforced. Second of all, the Drug Quality and Security Act, as I mentioned in a PowerPoint, does specifically provide that in order for a compounding pharmacy to receive the exemptions that are offered in Section 503A of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, there are certain criteria or certain standards that must be met. One of them is compliance with United States Pharmacopoeia chapters governing compounding. So this incorporation is, in my view, also necessary to ensure that our rules comply with federal law. So that's the second big thematic point. And the third one is, I believe, and I think that the members of the group believe, that what we've accomplished here is a simplification of the rule. It's a simplification by combination and by, to the maximum extent possible, eliminating supra-USP requirements that might be put in as a matter of state law. This is a discussion draft. It is not my expectation, although it is certainly your privilege, that the board would take any action on this proposal today. Rather, my recommendation would be that the board take a look at this, ask any questions, of course, that you want to ask today of me or Bill, and then take this home and give it some further close reading, close consideration, and that we come back in June with a mind, if you're ready at that point, to thinking about whether or not it's time to publish these for notice and comment. So with that, I'll shut up. Yes, Mr. President.
Go ahead, I just, quick question.
No, I'm done.
Is there a current document that we now abide by that we could reference to this to see if there are any changes that we?
I could give you a red line. And I thought about it. I'll tell you why I didn't, but I'll tell you why I'm happy to do it if you want me to. Is remember that we've got, so we got 1810 as it exists, which is sort of the general comment, and then we had these separate set of rules in 2800 for sterile product preparation. So we combined that stuff, and I'm happy to give you a red line. I can send that out today. But the reason I didn't was because the red line for one of them would just be everything in 2800 would be taken away, but I'm more than happy to provide that.
It would be of value to me to have that to
be more than happy to
consider.
do
I don't know
that.
about the rest of the board members. Yeah.
Perhaps this would be the way to do it. I'll do two things. I will give you, I will email you a PDF of the current 1810 rule by itself without red line. I will give you a PDF of the sterile product preparation separate without any sort of red line. And then we'll give you a red line 1810, because like I say, if I put a red line on the sterile stuff, it's going to look like somebody slit their wrist and bled all over the page. I think that'll get it. If it doesn't, I'll
Make
get
a yellow line.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Well, then it looks like it did something else to the rule, right?
My point exactly.
But I will send those out, and if it's not what you need, I'm happy to give you any
Is the
format.
board happy to receive this information and study it some?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Bill, what did I say wrong in that? Or any,
Where do I start?
I'm sure it's a lengthy and undistinguished list.
I think you characterized it just right. It's a big part of what we rewrote just mirrors the federal law, the DQSA, which for pharmacies like mine and yours and Joey's eliminates office use compounding. And that's the unfortunate part, and that's the part that I push back on the most, but Jay explained to me very eloquently that we can't take on the federal government as the Board of Pharmacy. Now, the FDA's pushback is, or the DQSA's pushback is, well, it does allow for office use compounding if you're a 503B facility, which means you must be compliant with good manufacturing practice standards. Well, if you're going to do that, you may as well open your own pharmacy manufacturing plant, because that's what's involved. So the long and short of it is your ability to make a dental gel for the dentist across town is gone.
But you can make it for a specific patient.
You can make it patient specific. That's exactly right.
I will note, one of the things is you guys are reviewing this draft, and we really, there was a lot of discussion about how to deal with this, and I will make clear something that I think all of us said in the group is, with respect to changing our rules to conform with federal requirements, we're not taking a position that the DQSA got everything right. We're taking a position that that's what federal law is. And our folks have to understand what those requirements are, and we have to make sure that our laws don't get us involved in some sort of pitched and, in my opinion, ultimately losing battle with a number of collateral consequences on that. But note that in the draft, what we've tried to do is, you'll see the language there. I think it says complies with applicable federal law. We're trying to, the goal was to try to write this in such a way that if there is a change to federal law, either in the statute itself or in FDA's interpretive guidance as to what that law means, et cetera, that we can comport with that. I will certainly, I got good feedback on an initial draft I had sent out for the folks, and I'd gotten fairly specific in some references and got good advice that, well, if you get that specific, if they change the law, we're going to have to go back and redo our rules, and so we're trying to avoid that. We tried to put this in a way that would assure that we're not telling our pharmacies it's okay to violate federal law, but leaving it in such a way that as federal law changes, if it changes, either in substance or interpretation, we're not restricting our people through our rules. So
hence item number C, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So there may be 100 questions on this, and that's why I did not want you guys to feel like we were springing this on you and saying, not that I think you guys are good, smart, willful people. You do what's the right thing to do. But I think you just sort of digest this a little bit and come back and then decide, do we want to go forward with this or some other version or not at all in June?
Well, let's just say we review this and come back in June and we decide to adopt this as proposed. What is the natural progression of that state?
If we came back, I think what we do two things is, number one, between now and June, Clint's going to look at the draft we have here and look for the types of words that may be in there that cause the hearts to go aflutter at the RRC and try to avoid that. But that's a technical correction piece on that. If we came back in June, then your options would be, you could say, I would certainly, any technical suggestions Clint has, I will get those out to you well in advance. But let's say you come back and say, yeah, we're comfortable with this. Let's publish it for notice and comment. Then that's what we would do. It would go.
So the next step would be published for notice and comment, pharmacists and the general public.
General public.
Everybody.
We go through the normal rulemaking process
Right.
of that and do the hearing. And I expect this is a rule that we will get some comments, and I expect some good, substantive, thoughtful comments on.
So our next decision would not be to adopt it, but to publish it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But I didn't at least want you guys to feel like that I or anybody else is suggesting we need to do this today. I mean, you just saw this draft. There's a lot. Okay. There's a lot to think about in this thing. Right. So that's my suggestion on that.
I apologize to the board if I predisposed anybody else's questions. They were pressing in my mind.
I appreciate that, Mr. President. I think it's ever important to remind sort of what the process is. Right. Just that these initial decisions are never final decisions.
It sounds like that the consent is here that we would send us the red line or whatever line you want to call it.
I will do that.
Let's review that. Come back in
today.
June with any kind of technical comments, that type thing, and put together something we can publish for comment. Is that right?
That's right.
Lay on the table, so to speak.
That's correct.
Ordinarily, I wouldn't ask you a question in a meeting that you hadn't been prepared for, but could you and I have a little dialogue about the hospital vision of what our compounding rules are doing nowadays and some of the consternation they're having about that? And if you don't want to do that, I'm okay, but if you would, I would like to.
Well, what I would say is that I think that on that, I think what you're speaking to specifically is the lot number.
That's correct.
Tracking on that. And Bill can certainly, Bill's an expert on this far more than I am. What I would tell you is that we have made it very clear to hospital pharmacies circumstances that aren't compounding, simple reconstitution, and the use of a proprietary advantage bag kind of thing. As long as you're doing exactly what the labeling is doing, that's not considered compounding. So that seemed to be at least some of the initial angst was, and I think that the clear guidance and guidance that Bill tell me if I'm wrong on this, that's very consistent with how compounding is defined both in our statute and how it's defined under appropriate USP standards. But for things that are compounded, the requirement of recording and tracking lot numbers of the ingredients for that is not a new requirement. It is not a new requirement under state law.
Totally noted. I know that.
It is not a new requirement under USP rules. I think it is. I think it's certainly it is evident that the case is that there are some hospital facilities that may not have understood that to be the law and have not been doing it. On the other hand, there are an awful lot of hospitals around the state that have always been doing that. So our approach has been on this is to provide guidance we've not been going out sort of like stormtroopers and saying, you know, get this fixed tomorrow or there'll be hell to pay. We've approached this as an educational effort to say, look, this is a standard you've got to comply with, what you need to be doing. You need to figure out a way to do that. We're not threatening to shut you down on that, but put a plan in place to get it taken care of. And we haven't been saying have something done in a week. We've been saying take a couple, 3 months, whatever you need to do, and tell us what your plan is and implement it. So I do understand those that have expressed their displeasure, certainly to me. And although I would tell you the conversations I've had have been uniformly professional. It's not to say people like what I have to say, but that describes about half the phone calls I have to make. But somebody's happy and somebody's real pissed off.
Is there any, I hate to interrupt you, and I think you're struggling to tell me what I want to hear, but is there any connotation, Bill, of something called low-risk sterile compounding?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't exempt.
The rules remain the same, though.
Yes, that does not exempt the requirement, or there's no exemption for keeping track of lot number and expiration date of the ingredients just because it's low risk.
With lidocaine 2%, you're supposed to record the lot number expiration date of lidocaine and Rosefin. Is that right?
That's
compounding.
I'd say that's simple reconstitution.
Well,
before we start offering legal opinions,
I'm not going to go any farther on that, but that is exactly
it's in the package insert.
Yeah.
What I would tell you is that I am confident, and based on the great feedback I've gotten from our experts. I mean, I've got Bill, who's on the USP expert committee for these, from Gigi, who's chairperson of the USP, Ken Latta, who's done this. I mean, look, if we're giving people wrong information, I defy anybody to come up with 3 other people on the face of the earth that could provide better insight into that. So I think we've given clear direction. If you're only doing, well, again, I'm going to fall into the trap I didn't want to fall. Let me say that we put it very clear in what the guidance is, and I'm confident that our field folks are looking for, based on that guidance and what the standards are. But let me put it this way. There were some, the strangest sort of pushback we got on that, and I won't say where it was from.
Yes, don't be location specific.
Was a facility that said, well, we're not doing any compounding. And I said, well, that certainly comes as a surprise. Well, we don't dispense these to anybody outside of the facility. Now, what that has to do with whether something's compounded or not, I never was quite sure. And the response I gave to that is, I said, okay, so then your position would be, if you had a contaminated or potentially contaminated compounded product, you would be comfortable telling patients and regulators and lawyers and everybody else in the FDA, well, no, we didn't have any way to go back and figure out who received this compounded product or what we needed to recall, because they were just people within our facility. And I think that's the basic point, and what the requirement in USP standards and the long-standing requirement in North Carolina law, independent of those standards, was there has to be a mechanism for compounded products to figure out what was the source of a potential contamination, what patients received that product, and how can we get them back. So there is a real safety issue here. It's not as if any of us have certainly decided, boy, wouldn't it be fun to watch Smith Community Hospital have to jump through hoops for our amusement. Hey, that's not the approach.
Well, you know, barcode scanning, everybody is really high on barcode scanning. I'm a true believer in it myself, but nothing about lot numbers, you know, that's not even involved, or expiration date, that doesn't cover it all, which is sad. But I've had a lot of dialogue with a lot of people about that, and
I mean, it's a real
Bill
issue.
he might be an expert. I'm the least expert in the room on it, so I've tried to bring myself up to speed, done a lot of study on that type thing. But
and one of the things that I've tried, that I've emphasized to folks who are in good faith trying to figure out how can we put in a system that meets this standard is, you know, remind them, look, you remember we passed that rule about a year ago now that says any record you're required to create or save for the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy, you can create it electronically. So I know that there are a lot of facilities. In fact, I think Duke is one of them. They have an electronic means of tracking all this. And look, I'm not diminishing or not unaware of the fact that you put in new IT systems. That's not cheap. I understand that. But there are many ways in which compliance with what is a baseline requirement under any standard you care to look at can be accomplished. I think with a minimum of fuss. I mean, it's disruptive in the beginning. Got to figure out how to do it. But in the short term and the medium term,
when I talked to one of the hospital pharmacy directors, he had a stack of sheets he'd feel like that thick. You know, I thought, well, what good is that doing to anybody? But I guess I brought it up so the other board members would be aware of the fact that there is not controversy, just some questions out there. That's
consternation might be better.
Is that like parallel to Jay Campbell? I don't know about that.
Yeah,
but I just want to make sure that y'all were aware that there was some pharmacists out there who have a big interest in that.
Bill, I bet we've spent, I mean, if you added up the amount of time that everybody on the group has spent sort of making sure we're giving the right guidance, I mean, it's probably in the tens of hours between the three of everybody.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not diminishing what anybody's done.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to
let the board know what's
issue.
Going on. It's got to be ventilated.
Okay.
Yep.
So y'all good then to get your red line copy and refer to that and come back and get it?
All right, Dan, I'll send that now. Like I say, if you get it and it looks like hieroglyphics or it's not helpful, otherwise, just let me know. I can format it any way you want it formatted. I put in Comic Sans font if you want.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Might add a link to the Drug Quality and Security Act
That's
also.
a good idea. Actually, you know what I could, yeah, we won't, yes,
Or-
that's a good idea.
Or the FDA's
Yep,
interpretation.
that's a great idea. I'll do that.
Mr. Campbell, this next item, the election board officers, is that something that somebody else does? Do I do that? Do I run that?
Everybody's involved. You're the president. You don't have to recuse yourself.
I've been
You
the
can-
president for 2 years. I forgot how it was before that, so.
All of you can handle it however you choose. If you guys want to take a break and talk about it, or you want to accept not, however you would like to handle it, Mr. President, that is entirely up to you and the members.
I'm totally unprepared and prepared, so I don't.
Would y'all want to take a break to talk about it? That's absolutely
don't-
fine.
I think that's a wise idea.
Yes.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, why don't we just adjourn for a few minutes, and y'all come back whenever you're ready. Let the smoky fire up the cigars and get in the back room back there and do a little horse trading, whatever.
We'll take like another.
Don't make me do it.
Y'all,
Don't make me do
we'll
it.
take another 15-minute recess. We'll be back. About 15
While y'all are back there, I will say too that you also need to appoint the Finance Committee for the summer. Joey and Parker are happy to continue serving. I'm delighted to have them continuing serving, but you might want to talk about that too.
Okay.
While you're back
Do
there.
we need to go into
What we
closed
ought to do
session and all
about
that?
that rule.
We just go about it.
Instead of
No
making
session at
18,
all.
10,
Just
we'll make it
recess. Yeah.
2800.
Session.
Almost.
Okay, we're gonna go back into session now. It took us a while because we went to lunch and we decided to get rid decided to get rid of Jay, and after that it was pretty
Smooth sailing for that.
pretty smooth sailing after that. I'll call now for prior to any nominations, any comments from the board members. No, you have comments?
I have some I'd like to make, Mr.
Okay.
First, I would like to commend you for a fine job as president for the last 2 years. It's the first time I've been on the board, I believe, that someone served 2 consecutive years, and I was happy to make the motion last year that enabled you to do that, which we.
Parker, you told me back there it took me 2 years to learn how to do it. Now you're trying to be nice about it.
I wasn't gonna tell the whole room that, but.
Thank you very much.
That said, you've done an excellent job as president. And I would, if it's okay or appropriate, I'd like to make a motion that Joey McLaughlin be our president next year. And if you want to combine it, that also in that same motion, recommend that Lizelle continue as vice president of the board for 1 more year.
Any other nominations? They have a motion nomination be closed.
So moved.
Second.
That's all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. So Joey, you're elected president.
Thanks, sir.
Joey, vice president. I guess we'll redo our seating. Is that right?
We'll get your El Presidente name tag. We'll get that back out of the storage in there. Or if you'd like to change to some other title, let us know.
Is that's effective immediately, right?
That will be effective at the next board.
Oh, okay.
So you still got some authority, Gene. Go ahead
Yeah,
and
thank you.
serve.
Thank you so much. Well,
Gene, I'll let you have my chair for about another 2 hours, okay?
I don't know. I might take my chair with me. Thank y'all. It's not funny, but it's good. We have a good board. We work together well, and we try to represent the interest of the citizens of North Carolina, and also try to the pharmacists we serve. And we're certainly glad to serve with a great staff that we have, and look forward to continuing that service.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I also want to make a comment, follow up on Parker. I've been on the board for 8 years, and I think the past 2 years you've done an excellent job on running our board affairs. Most people don't know how much that Gene does for our state, from the legislative to the committees. I don't know how he finds the time to do all he does, but he has been a tremendous asset to our state, not as a board member, but as a pharmacist and protecting of our public and the new issues that are coming back every day. And I just want to thank you publicly for the service you've done the last 2 years.
I'd like to do the same thing, because I think that's right. I think when you sit up here, Gene, presiding over a meeting, I think most people don't understand how much more background work goes on being a president. And I will tell you, there have been more times than I can count over the past 5 years that I have needed and welcomed your wise counsel on a range of matters, about as broad as you can imagine. But the level of expertise that you brought, especially in the legislative arena and the contacts you have and your ability to bring different groups together, have been enormously helpful for me, and I really, really appreciate that.
Glad to do it. Thank you. Okay, we're going to...
Ditto.
Thank you. All right. We're going to move on now to the report on the upcoming occupational license.
No, we need the Finance Committee, Mr. President.
Oh, we did that too. I'm sorry. Let's make it official, though, I guess.
This doesn't require motions or the like. I mean, if you guys have decided.
I'll appoint the due Finance Committee for next year. It's going to be Carol Day, Joy McLaughlin, Parker Chesson. Carol will be a new member on the committee. We'll have a year to learn coming on there.
I agree. I think that's fantastic. And what we will do, Parker and Joey know the sort of ropes on this. What we'll be doing over the summer is that Gail and Rhonda and the department heads will be putting together a proposed budget. We usually, and we debate that internally and we usually try to set up a time in August that we can convene, go through everything line by line, and we try to get everything from the committee satisfied so we can come to the September meeting and approve a budget before we go into our next fiscal year. So we'll be in touch with you over that. But maybe what I'll do is send all 3 of you, go ahead, and I'll send out and get some, because August can be a tough month with vacations and the like, and see if we can get some dates and try to knock something out for that. Very good.
Okay, let's move on.
The report on the upcoming licensing board study, I would like to tell you that I have something to report, but I don't have a lot to report. And I don't know if that should be frightening or relieving, but I think we've discussed before, the General Assembly's Program Evaluation Division has been tasked with conducting a study to determine, among other things, whether some or all occupational licensing boards should be eliminated or consolidated, and either consolidated with each other as independent bodies or united under some sort of umbrella. That study by the PED's work plan was to begin this month. I have not been contacted by anyone from PED. I understand that PED may have contacted some of the very small boards, but I don't know what's going on with that study. It's going to happen, to be sure, and the report, I think, is due to be produced to the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee in November. So I assume they're going to be doing some on-sites, but I want everybody to have, just to be reminded that this is going on, because I'm certain, or I guess I'm not certain, I anticipate that there will be a visit here, or there might be information requests, and I may need to involve some or all of you in that sort of process. So I hate that it's happening over the summer, but I will, as soon as I know something, I'll be in touch. I'll keep you guys in touch every step of the way, anytime we're contacted about anything. But obviously it's a little bit of a nerve-wracking exercise, and I'm not sure what the end point will be with that, but I will let you guys know. I think there was some thought that there may be some information coming from Raleigh today about this, but I don't know. So, Gene, you might be able to use your contact.
Get information today, it won't have much substance behind it.
That's what I figured.
Or any authority.
Yeah, I looked at the agenda and didn't think that was going to be helpful. So that's what I don't know, I guess. I can, if you'd like, Mr. President, just real quick on PED report and recommendations on prescription drug abuse. Each of you have been given that, each of you have that report. I think I've sent it out to you individually, but the program evaluation was tasked with doing sort of an overall look at what North Carolina does and how it does it in terms of dealing with prescription drug abuse. I think it probably won't come to anybody's surprise that the magic bullet was not located during the study, but there were a number of recommendations that came out. None are specific to the Board of Pharmacy. The chief recommendations were that the medical board develop some sort of updated set of education for physicians who prescribe and other prescribers who prescribe controlled substance opioid prescribing guidelines, more suggestions about promoting better use of the CSRS. There was a recommendation that some sort of mandatory continuing medical education be required for prescribers on controlled substance, but we weren't tasked with doing anything in this. I went to the Joint Legislative Program Evaluation Oversight Committee, that's always easy to say, in which this report was presented. The committee did recommend that PED staff do some draft legislation coming out of this. That has not come out yet. If it does and there's anything to report, I will do that.
Could I have one comment on that?
Please.
I received some information yesterday talking about this very thing, and if I don't know how my projection is going to be if pharmacists and physicians don't begin using the controlled substance registry, it's going to be mandated next year that you use on every controlled substance prescription.
I think that is correct. It was not stated as such at the committee meeting, and to PED's credit, I guess, if that's right, where they did emphasize that registration and use rates have been rising. But I think you're right that and we've been telling pharmacists this for years, I've been doing it in CEs, but the rubber is really about to hit the road.
Less than 2% right now are being checked.
And I understand all the practical issues with this, but everybody remembers in 2011 there was a mandatory check bill introduced. 2013 there was a mandatory check bill introduced. I think you're right, Gene, that 2015 is going to see a replay of that theme. So people need to use it, and in a responsible way. And, but not being registered or not ever accessing it, I don't think there's going to be any explanation that can be offered to anybody over in Raleigh that's going to provide a level of comfort that prevents a much more intrusive legislative solution on that. So we've sounded the alarm. We'll see if anybody reacts to that. Would you like me to talk about the naloxone dispensing real quick, Mr. President?
I'd rather you talk about it, but I will.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sorry, I would, just a further report, there was a program convened over at the School of Government 2 weeks ago. It's had a lot of the state public health people. They sang your praises at one side and down the other. You guys were presented as a model of how an occupational licensing board can provide a very quick response to a public health need. There was a discussion about the waiver of enforcement of the public health nurse dispensing rules to allow immediate dispensing of naloxone by nurses at those facilities. They did discuss and praise the quick effort to publish permanent rules for that. There is some desire among the public health folks to explore and how it would be accomplished is the key question, but to explore having pharmacists be able to essentially prescribe and dispense naloxone of their own authority. There's a program that has been implemented in Rhode Island. There's a program that has been implemented in New Mexico. They seem to be working real well. The public health folks are very bullish on this. I understand the state health director has his eye on that. So I've let the public health folks know that anytime they are ready and want to come discuss ideas with the board or some set of the board, to let me know, and we'll do this. So that's where we are on that. But really, you guys were put in deservedly put in a very positive light at this school of government. Your efforts have been noted, and in these times when PED studies and the like are going on, not a bad thing to have some folks recognizing that we're keeping our eye on the public health ball there. Candidates licensed by exam. Debbie, did you want to?
Not really. It's just the report of all the candidates that were licensed last year. We do have to enter that in the minute book, and that's just basically what it is. It's their grades and their names.
Thanks for the information.
It makes a terrific bedstand reading. Just a reminder issue, I have provided to each of you NABP's call for task force and committee volunteers. You have the form. Obviously, you can, I think we have until mid-June or so to indicate interest. But those of you who are going to be at the NABP meeting coming up this week, I do encourage you to talk with Carmen about those opportunities. And I encourage you to take advantage of being on those. So North Carolina is always a valued presence on the NABP task forces and committees. So you have it to deal with. And on the NABP meeting itself, I think we're all set. Those of you who are going, don't think you're set, just let me know, or, and we'll get it squared away. So financial report is next. Gail, come on up.
She goes.
Under your financial tab, well, good morning, but under your financial tab, the first report is the memo to Mr. Campbell with a summary of our April 30th financial activity. And we'll discuss the balance sheet first, and that's your next report. And for the 7 months ending April 30th, line 6, our total cash is $7.3 million, and our total assets are $9 million. Under liabilities and fund balance, line 42, our excess revenues over expenditures for our fiscal year are $1.6 million. Our total fund balance is $8.9 million, and total liabilities and fund balance is $9 million. The next report is our profit and loss statement for the 7 months ending April 30th with a comparison of our year-to-date budget and annual budget. Line 25, our total revenues are $3.6 million. The budget through April is $3.5 million. That's a variance of $122,557 over budget, and then our annual budget for revenues is $3.8 million. Under expenditures, line 76, our total expenditures for the 7 months ending April 30th is $2 million. Our budget is $2.2 million. That's a variance of $214,571 under budget, and then our annual budget for expenditures is $3.65 million. And that line 77, our excess revenues over expenditures for the fiscal year is $1.6 million. If you'll look at the revenues, line 6, pharmacy permits, you'll see that our variance there is $110,000 over budget. And then pharmacy renewals, the next line, line 7, we're $43,400 under budget, and that's due to the high volume of the transfer of ownerships, such as Car Drugs and Walgreens and Harris Teeter and Kroger. Then also, you'll notice line 9, DME and device permits. It appears that we're going to be over budget probably on that line item. The variance now is $23,500. And you'll notice that our year-to-date for April is $43,500, and our annual budget is $37,500, which we're already over budget on that. Under the expenditures, our largest variances and items that will probably be over budget for our fiscal year are salaries overtime, line 28, and vacation pay, line 31. And the salaries overtime, of course, is due to the high volume of inspections that had to meet the deadline of March 1. And then the vacation pay is due to the employees retiring that we did not know when we prepared the budget last summer. The other large variances are consulting, legal fees, and salaries, and those will even out by the end of the fiscal year. That's just due to the timing of budgeting versus the actual expense. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, very straightforward.
I have a quick, and it's budget related, I suppose. Jay, where do the software?
Oh, the big contract on the software?
Yeah.
That is proceeding. We have, I think the first 2 modules now have been delivered. So Vincent is meeting the deadlines, and we are moving through that exactly as we hoped we would. So the first 2 modules have been delivered. They're great. The other piece of this, and we can talk about this with Budget Committee, but the other piece we're looking at is, and this is Kristen's great suggestion, is our overall, not only the functionality in terms of migrating to the different platform, just probably trying to refresh the look of the website a little bit. I mean, we redid this in 2006, but we're also thinking about which will be a much smaller contract to do some web redesign stuff. But the functionality, which is what we're working on now, Vincent's been hitting the marks, and we're pleased.
I have a question about line 50. What is Association dues Carolina Point to?
That's
This condo. Yeah, we own a condo space here, so there's a condo ownership association. So these are the dues that go for maintenance of the common areas of the building.
And we had a $5,000 one-time assessment back in December to take care of some of the
Some building
maintenance
stuff that needed to be done.
issues on the outside of the building, so we'll be a little over.
You're welcome to come to the owners' meeting anytime you like. It's a hoot and a holler, I can tell you.
Is it at High and Rubbish's office?
The owners are us, Hein Rubish and Jessica Bishop, the dentist, and then Rick Williams still owns where the UNC. You know, they're interesting meetings because the way the votes break down, because we own by far the most space, essentially, if we want it to get done, it gets done. If we don't want it to get done, it doesn't get done. So you can appreciate the dynamic that then sets up in the meetings. But
Unofficially speaking, of course.
right,
Yes,
right.
Thank you.
Yep.
thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Josh, you're up. Notice Josh wearing a tie again. He's doubled his tie wardrobe. He has two now.
I got a lot more than that.
Well, when he hits you up for more money to buy ties,
That's
you
right,
remember
yeah.
that comment
He's
you
worth
made.
every dime he's paid.
Wardrobe allowance. Okay, so as you can see, we've had a total of 93 complaints this year, or at least as of May 12th. 33 have been of the procedural legal type, 14 diversions, 28 errors, 9 incidents, and then 9 inspection follow-ups. We're kind of on the mark for number of complaints within the past couple of years. Some areas of the state are getting a little bit harder hit than others. We seem to have had a lot more complaints come out of the western part of the state here lately, especially down in the Charlotte area. I know Jason Smith, who handles that area down there, he's been assigned the most this year so far, and I know for us to say that we're on about pace or maybe even a little down, I think he would disagree. but like I said, we're right kind of where we need to be, and myself and Jay and Ellen, and Cindy, we watch out, where the complaints are going, who's getting what, and if anybody needs a little breather, we certainly do assign them to their neighbors. The other chart we have, as you guys requested, are the voluntary surrenders. And this year, we've had a total of 13. 6 have been technicians, 2 pharmacies, and 5 pharmacists.
What are most of those pharmacists, Josh?
Where?
What is the reason?
I think overall would be drug diversion.
Yeah.
Diversion or abuse, or that kind of goes together?
Mm-hmm. It kind of goes together, yeah.
That's by far the most common fact pattern.
Same with technicians. That would probably go hand in hand as well, drug diversion as well, some sort of substance abuse issue. Pharmacies, that would, fall under some sort of operational issues, inspections that are just horrific. It would be my best guess.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, any questions?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Yes, sir.
I know Andy Bowman's here to update us with big doings at Campbell, so I will.
And while he's coming up, Andy, welcome. Good to have you. Mr. McLaughlin, if you look at the clock and look at our agenda.
Joey was always a big fan of the 18-hour meeting, so.
No, he wasn't. We had some.
As some of my people might say, he was the onlyest one.
That's exactly right.
Hey, Andy.
Hey, greetings from Bowie's Creek. Good to see you guys. Haven't had an opportunity to be before you in quite a while due to teaching schedule and such, but we just got rid of a group of kids, graduated students on Friday. There's some students here in both rooms today that are still in our program, along with some Carolina students that are I think, getting a good opportunity today, especially with the first 2 cases. So I'm sure they're getting to see some good activity and understanding of what the board does.
They can be thankful I'm not teaching them law, because they
Yeah.
ask questions in the exact same manner in the law class.
No doubt, no doubt. Those of you that have been around North Carolina pharmacy for a long time are very well aware of Dr. Ronald Maddox, who started our pharmacy school in 1985, came up here from Mercer University. He's a native of Center, Alabama, he will tell you, and has done yeoman's work with that program. Probably didn't think he would be dean for as many years as he has been, but has had tenure as dean there since 1985. And the time has come for Ron to retire, and he's excited about that. Him and Susan have big plans to visit family, to go disappear to the Maggie Valley, which they love to do. He gave us information about 2 years ago that it was becoming imminent, and he moved his timeline up a little bit recently and decided that as of January 1, he was going to retire. And so we quickly, as a university, began the search for a new dean. Our university, led by Dr. Wallace, who many of you know at least by name, decided that an internal search would be best first. We would see what we had internally and go from there. We had some exceptional internal candidates, and we have selected an internal candidate. It has been announced. It is on our website for you to read in more detail. But one of our alumni from our own College of Pharmacy, he did his undergraduate at Campbell and Pharmacy School just like I did, graduated in 1996. Dr. Michael Lynn Adams is the new dean of Campbell University College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. He has his PharmD from Campbell, as I mentioned, from 1996. And then went on to get a PhD in medicinal chemistry from University of Washington. So we call him Doctor, and now we're going to have to call him Dean Doctor at Campbell. Michael has been serving at Campbell for almost 10 years now. He's been teaching medicinal chemistry. The students here will smile because so many of them that have had him already. He has won Professor of the Year so many times now it's getting to be just an automatic. I don't even know that they need to have a race anymore. He is a very well-liked and excellent teacher. He will do a great job. Our alumni base is very pleased that the second dean of our pharmacy school at Campbell, which we're not young anymore. We're not the new kid on the block anymore. There's Wingate now. There's High Point on the horizon. We're becoming a school that's been around for a while. But the idea that we're just now getting our second dean is kind of hard to believe. And the fact that it's an alum is really exciting for our students and for our faculty and for our alumni. So Michael has served as associate dean or assistant dean, of interprofessional education for the last couple years. So he's been very involved with us trying to blend our training with our different healthcare practitioner programs that we've started. Obviously, we started PA, we've got PT, obviously we started the DO program, and so we've had some activities where we've gotten them together with the pharmacy students as well. Many students have appreciated that from all angles. The DO students seem to be very engaged with having the pharmacists as part of that team, as well as the PAs and the PTs. So we've started nursing as well, as most of you probably know. And so all those things being blended together from an educational perspective is something that we're going to try to continue and try to keep us from becoming compartmentalized, which obviously is what happens a lot of times at institutions. Everybody's doing their own thing. So we're trying to have some activities where everybody's working together. So that's my news today. It's exciting news, and something that hopefully you'll all have an opportunity at different pharmacy events in the next few months to meet him. Dr. Adams will take over as dean January 1, so he will be in Ron's back pocket for the next few months, figuring out all the things that need to be learned and understood about what they've accomplished for the last 20-some plus, 30 years almost. About how to be the dean and how to take over these activities. Obviously, it encompasses not just the pharmacy school, it encompasses the PA program, the PT program as well. So he will have quite a bit on his plate in that regard. So when you see him, congratulate him. I know you will. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can about what's going on about Campbell. We've been paving some roads lately and doing some things down there. We always have construction going on. Probably needed to put up a permanent sign of please excuse our progress, but we are building and moving and shaking down there. So anything I can provide or answers I can give, I'd be glad to do it.
I have a very general question. Preceding you was a report on investigative statistics, and where the diversion was mentioned as a cause sometimes of pharmacists turning in a license or losing that license. How is the student in pharmacy school exposed to that? I would call it an occupational hazard.
Okay.
They're gonna be out there in the future and with all of life stresses and strains,
Yeah.
and working in a place where there are pills and
Mhm.
medications, or you just expect them to learn that, or do you hammer that home?
We do, and that's, our friends at NCPRN are very helpful in that. They visit all our pharmacy campuses in North Carolina. When they do come and talk about the pitfalls that pharmacists can fall into very easily, generally they bring clients. Yes, and these speakers who have gotten into this situation and have gone down that slippery slope speak very plainly and very specifically about what happened to them and the things that caused it to happen. And so I think our students would say, yeah. I think they would agree that they see and hear some very scary scenarios, and so I think we expose them to that. NCPRN comes, and then myself and Dr. Cisneros, at least on our campus, speak about that at other times in other courses. So they're not naive to it. Now, you and I both know that, and that's the way of the world, is when the life stress hits people, things do happen. And but they are not naive to it, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And there are rumors that Dr. Jerry is following Ron. Is this true?
Not rumors.
That is official. It is out there. That is for public knowledge and consumption at this point. It's my understanding that Dr. Wallace will be retiring as of this time next year. It's a May date. Don't ask me the exact number because I can't remember. I can tell you that my understanding from what I read was that he would retire this time next year. There is an immediate search committee that's been put together by the Board of Trustees where they will begin a search for a new president of the institution. Once Dr. Wallace steps down as president this time next year, he will take a one-year sabbatical and then return as chancellor or some type of chancellor title of the school. So he will still be engaged and still be involved after that year sabbatical. So that would put us in the 2016 timeframe that he would come back as chancellor, spring of 2016 theoretically. So he's excited as well, I'm sure, to be moving on and have some time with his family. So a lot of transition at Campbell University right now as far as leadership, and that doesn't even include the people that are retiring. We've got retirements like Tom Holmes, who many of you may know from being involved at the school for many years. Tom's retiring. Gil Steiner's retiring. So a lot of changes, a lot of new faces, a lot of young people that are having to step up to the plate, so to speak.
And thanks for the update, and you give the new dean our official board congratulations and best wishes.
Be glad to do it.
Thank you.
All right. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks, Andy. Oh, there's Wendy. Come on up, Wendy.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Wendy Cox from UNC Eshelman School of Pharmacy, and I have a couple of updates for you. First, the school has added 2 more PGY1 residents for 2014-2015 year. One is a community resident with Reload Discount Drugs in New Bern, and another one is within CCNC Network in Eastern Carolina in Greenville. And so we now have 7 PGY1 community residents and 2 PGY1 managed care through CCNC at North Carolina. So we're happy about that. I'd also like to let you know about a new pharmacy, Rural Pharmacy Health Scholars program that's been developed at the school. And this Scholars Health program has been developed with the goal of addressing the healthcare needs of individuals in rural parts of the state, and to help them with access to good quality health care. First, it will be offered to selected PharmD students enrolled on the Asheville campus starting this fall, and there have been 5 students selected for this rural pharmacy health program, and it will involve seminars, elective coursework that has to focus on rural pharmacy health, and their APPEs or rotations will be focused in rural health. So we're happy and excited about that, and I think the students are as well. And then lastly, just to give you an update on where we are with admissions, we're really excited about our incoming class. We have 135 on the Chapel Hill campus as of today, and 27 on the Asheville campus for a total of 162. We think this is a fantastic class. It's easy to report the academic parameters, and I'll do that first. The PCAT average is 87%, and the GPA average is 3.5. But we also feel really good about, I've talked a little bit about our new curriculum and focusing on non-cognitive attributes, and we feel really good about how we assess the non-cognitive attributes of these students. So we're really expecting them to be really great scholars and students, but also possess these non-cognitive attributes that are instrumental for success in pharmacy practice. 79% have a prior 4-year degree. And we have a lot of folks represented. We have 4 countries represented. We have 26 states represented and 30 North Carolina counties represented in this incoming class. So those are the updates. And like Andy said, we just graduated the group 2 on Saturday, had a really nice ceremony. And so we're happy with that. But any questions that I might can answer?
I have one.
Okay.
It'd be a broken record on this. The Elizabeth City program, update us on what happened to that or what's the current
Where
status.
we are is as I mentioned, I think last time I was here, admissions was suspended for this past year. The program has not been stopped, but it's just in a suspension phase until some things can be done and addressed, and more qualified applicants can be recruited for that program. So we have one group of students now that the PY, this past year, 13-14, we had a PY2 class and a PY3 class. And the PY3s are now off on rotations, they're PY4s, and so we had one class left, and we're bringing them all back to Chapel Hill for the fall because we just really didn't feel like that would be good for them to be alone there. And so we've helped them with housing, identify housing, and help them get settled back in Chapel Hill, and so we think it'll be, a good experience for them this next year. And I'll continue to keep you updated as we know more. Anything else?
One question. When you have students who are admitted into the School of Pharmacy prior to getting a 4-year degree, are y'all still giving a 4-year degree after 4 years?
We have. So if students do not have a 4-year degree, they're eligible for a BS in Pharmaceutical Sciences after their 3rd year of the program, and that's for all of the campuses as well, Elizabeth City and Asheville.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a
Okay,
minute.
I'm sorry. I was just curious how things are going this year as far as the pharmacists that are graduating and finding new jobs.
I do not have that data with me right now. We just administered our survey recently, so I don't have that, but I can send that to you. Jay, can I send that?
You send it to me and I'll,
Send
yeah,
it to Jay?
sure.
I'll send you the statistics so he can distribute it. We'll be happy to do that.
Be happy to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. President, 2 quick things. I meant to put this regard to getting up with the other executives about telehealth issues. We finally got that scheduled. That's June 4th, so I'll report back. We've had some, May's a tough month for all of us, so we've had some jobs. So that's scheduled for June 4th. Second thing, I don't think it requires any action, official action from the board. Remember, I'd sent you guys the letter on behalf of Scott Prescobell to support a grant application by the North Carolina. Everybody good with that? The report, okay, I will get that sent out to Scott today.
I think it's very responsive.
Yeah, no, those, I think you guys are going to have an opportunity to get to know him and some of those other folks a little bit more in the coming years. Some of this naloxone stuff. They're a nice, very professional group of people over there. Other than that leaves the consent agenda. We do not have a need for a closed session.
I'm going to ask the board at this time if you've had a chance to review the items on the consent agenda, to possibly have a motion in regards to consent agenda prior to lunch?
I make a motion we accept the consent agenda.
Thank you. Second, Dr. Chester. Any further discussion or questions? If you haven't done, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. So that becomes rule also. That's approved, and lunch will be served. We welcome everyone to come and have lunch with
It's
us.
obviously here, I can smell it.
I hope it meets Joey's specifications, so we won't have to go to Hardee's, but
We can send somebody right over there.
he was gonna buy from me today. Did I win or did you win? I can't remember.
Gene, you always win.
Oh, he's a master.
Yeah, I tell you, you just elect him president, he already starts lying. That's pretty good. At this time, then, if there are no further items on our agenda, we'll have a motion for adjournment to lunch. And all in favor? We are totally agreeable with that, so that's unanimous. So we're stand adjourned. Thank you all for your meeting today, or attendance today.
Alrighty.
That concludes our
We're done, right?
work, and this concludes your tenure as
That's
our
exactly
leader.
right.
Oh.